It's Esther here, and I'm just setting up the YouTube camera as well. I've got two laptops here. This is just so weird. So this is going to be odd, but anyway, hopefully it'll work. The people, if anyone's watching on YouTube, it's going to kind of look like I'm not looking at you most of the time, because I'm going to stick to this one, which is the Facebook live feed. I think is probably the best. It's certainly the best quality in terms of picture. So let's just get myself a little bit more centered. I think that's better. Yes, that's better. So this is the final webinar that I'm running this week, the Recovering You series. It's been really good fun doing these webinars this week. I have thoroughly enjoyed being with you, sharing this information with you, and hopefully you've got a lot from it. I've had a couple of lovely emails from people and messages who have been enjoying the webinars that I've been delivering and have got great value from them. So thank you for those of you that have been in touch. It's absolutely meant the world to me to hear from you. So thank you so much for contacting me. This is the final one, and it's going to be about self-study, which is one of the niyamas of yoga, which we talked about on Tuesday. I think Tuesday's live stream webinar was about the yamas and the niyamas. And if you remember, Swadhyaya was one of the niyamas, and it's one of the tools that we can use to help us to elevate ourselves as humans, to become better. And obviously self-reflection, looking at yourself and looking at where you are and where you're going to be, where you want to be, and what you have to do to get from where you are to where you want to be is all very helpful. Looking back at yourself, what you've done, what lessons you can learn from what's happened in your past, and how you can move forward. It's all really powerful learning material. We are our own best teachers. If only we take the time to look. We can be completely blind to ourselves, and we can also be fantastic teachers for ourselves. So self-study is one of the most important things that you can do if you want to grow as a person. And in terms of the yogic life, if you are seeking enlightenment is actually another word for self-realization, which is far more than just like, oh, look, here I am. It is the goal of yoga is the discovery and connection to the true self. Yoga talks about our true self as not being this physical body that we live in, but our spiritual soul, that is our true self. So the ultimate aim of Swadhyaya self-study is to know the soul on a really profound level. But before you can get there, you have to process the body that you're in. You have to process who you are in this life. You have to get to know who you are in order to be able to live the life that can take you to that place. So, in this lifetime, you might not be looking for that enormous spiritual journey. We're not necessarily at that level of our spiritual path. The yogic way of life says and beliefs say that we have to go through thousands and thousands and thousands of human lifetimes before we'll get there. So if you're not there, if you're just thinking, I just want to learn how to relax and sleep better at night, or I just want to learn how to quieten my mind at night, that's absolutely fine. It's all these little steps that we take in this lifetime. And you don't have to believe that there is another lifetime after this, because those steps that you take are going to make this lifetime better and make you better and make you healthier and happier and all of those the gains that you're going to get from this. But if you do subscribe to the reincarnation ideas, then you're taking your soul a little bit closer towards that ultimate self-realization. So, you know, you don't have to believe in reincarnation to want to take this path in this lifetime. So in terms of how do we approach self-study, well, there are lots of tools that yoga offers to us that can help us to be able to connect with ourselves and to actually dig deep into who we are and learn about the kind of people that we really are. And I've just realized that the book I wanted to show you is in the other room, but I can talk to you about it anyway. There are yoga texts, there are ancient texts, just like you know, religions have their ancient texts and their writings. So does yoga. There are scriptures and texts that go back thousands and thousands of years in yoga that talk about the discoveries that the ancient yogis made when they were living their very highly isolated and very spiritual, very contemplative lives that they were living. You know, they were living in a different age entirely. They didn't have the thousands and millions of distractions that we are faced with on a daily basis, and they were able to take themselves out of their world, out of their community, out of their society, and go and live off in the mountains somewhere, live off berries. They were in India, so they didn't necessarily have weather issues to deal with. It was warm. There was, you know, they lived an incredibly simple life, and they spent their entire time engaged in yogic practices. And so they were able to learn about all of these practices and how they can help them to achieve enlightenment. We can benefit from those teachings. The Yoga Sutras, I've mentioned those already. They are the core text, if you like, of yoga. And it's like the ultimate guide to yoga. It lays out this path called the 8 limbs of yoga, and self-study is right at the start, but it's also all the way through it, because you have to keep doing it. It's a continual process, just like anything else in life is a continual process. So one of the ways that we can learn to connect with yourself is through just getting quiet, getting still, and focusing inward, in on the breath. When you're constantly distracted by this and that, your phone's going off, you've got notifications on your laptop, the traffic, the demands of your job, the demands of your kids, all the things that go on in life that keep us distracted and busy and a little bit hectic and a little bit frazzled around the edges sometimes. They stop us from being able to really look at ourselves. You know, it's really hard to concentrate on anything when you're distracted. It's really hard to go into yourself when you're very distracted. So we're going to do, I'm going to invite you to join me for just a couple of minutes of what's known as quiet sitting. You might know this as meditation. People do call it meditation. I know that in mindfulness meditation and Buddhist meditation, there are different terms. In yoga, meditation is a very high level. Well, it's a higher part of the 8 limbs of yoga. So what we call meditation, when we just sit quietly, focusing on the breath, isn't meditation in terms of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Meditation is more like a way of being rather than something you do. But we're going to do that anyway. So I'm sitting on my yoga cushion at the moment, on my bolster, which I only ever tend to use it for sitting on the floor doing webinars. But wherever you're sitting now, if you make sure you're sitting up straight, you've got a nice straight back, shoulders nice and relaxed, and clasp your hands together. This finger here is the right hand. So if you've got the right hand dominant, and then bring your thumbs together so they're just gently touching each other. Drop your hands down into your lap, and You can close your eyes if you're comfortable to. If you're not comfortable to close your eyes, you can just lower your gaze. So you're not really looking at anything very much. You don't need to look at me. Just listen to my voice. Close your eyes or lower your gaze and relax your eyes. So you're not really staring at anything. You're just gazing. And we're going to just focus in on the breath. So you're just going to notice what is going on with your breath. I don't really want you to change anything in the breath. Just want you to notice it. See what's happening when you breathe in and out. Notice the quality of your breath. Noticing if you're breathing shallow or deep, if it's fast or slow, if you're breathing through the nostrils or through the mouth. Notice where in the body your air is going, which part of the lungs are expanding as you fill with air. Your shoulders moving, is your chest moving, is your lower belly moving? Where are you breathing to? That's going to connect very much to if you're deeply breathing or if your breath is shallow. Just paying attention to the breath. Maybe you can notice some smells in the air. Maybe you can hear the breath as it comes in through your nose. You're breathing through your mouth, you might be able to taste something. You may be able to taste the cup of tea that you just had or the meal that you've just eaten. May still be lingering in the mouth. Just being really, really present in the moment. When any thoughts come into your mind, you can notice them. The goal of this isn't to empty your mind. It's to notice the thoughts, but then just let them go. Just let them pass. Anything that's important that you need to think about later, you will think about later. Just letting any thoughts go. Thank them for arriving if you like, and then just say for goodbye or adieu. Farewell, see you later. And just noticing if anything is changing in your breathing as you're bringing this focus to your breath. You may find that your breath is getting slower and deeper. Or you may not, it doesn't matter. This is just about noticing what's going on. Bringing that awareness that we talked about at the start of the week. And just getting quiet. And now we're going to deepen the breath for a little while. Just bringing the breath to 6 seconds in length if you can. So you inhale for 6 seconds and you exhale for 6 seconds. If you can't manage that, just keep the breaths equal in length. With the ultimate goal that if you practice this, you will reach 6 seconds in time. And remembering that when your mind wanders, when thoughts appear, you just let them go and come back to the breath. And we're just going to stay sitting quietly just for a few moments. I'm going to stop talking. With a reminder to just let those thoughts go and focus on your breath. And now we're going to come back to the room. So just take in one more deep breath. Give your fingers a little wriggle. And then slowly open your eyes. And that practice, that quiet sitting practice, is a very, very calming, powerful practice to help you to connect with your body, to connect with your breath. And it helps you to notice what kind of things are going on in your mind. You will have probably, if this is your first time of doing it, you might have been quite shocked at how much your brain was trying to pull you in the opposite direction. You may have been quite surprised to realize that your thoughts weren't actually that interesting, but that they were quite compelling in that not very interesting, but you wanted to go with it kind of way. You may have found yourself thinking about something that you haven't thought about for a very long time. Who knows? It's your brain is going to try and stop you focusing on one thing, because your mind is programmed to think and think and think and think and think. So when you start doing this, your mind says, whoa, we've got to fill this space that's being created with thoughts. Lots of them, lots and lots and lots of thoughts. And you might find that it's quite a struggle at first. And the trouble with that is that people then think, because we've been given this idea that it's all about emptying your mind, people think, oh, well, I can't do it then, and then give up. And I know that people think this because I did. When I first started trying to do any kind of meditating, sitting quietly, I thought, I'm terrible at this. My brain would keep going with the same thought over and over again, or I get the Macarena stuck in my head, or I'd be picked back in school, back in infant school, 5-year-old girl in the playground, and all these ridiculous things going through my head, and I couldn't control them. And I thought, well, I'm awful at this then, so I may as well just stop. And then that's the worst thing you could do, because gradually your mind starts to realize, well, okay, so this is what you want to do. All right, okay. And as long as you remember that it's not about having an empty mind, we've got 60,000 thoughts a day. It's going to be really hard to just cut those out completely. It's not about stopping the thinking. It's about stopping yourself from latching onto those thoughts. And when you start to be able to do that, then that's where the magic happens. If you can get yourself out of your brain trying to tug you in the direction of some pointless train of thought and come back to focusing on your breath, that is huge, because once you learn how to do that in that sort of situation where that's the only thing you've got to think about, you can start to let go of other thoughts throughout your daily life that can hold you back from what you want to achieve in your life. So that is a really powerful way to connect to your thoughts. And if you remember from the awareness talk that I did on Monday, that's where it all starts. It all starts from your thoughts. So the minute you can start to get even the tiniest grip, even if it's like 5 minutes, and you manage to pull yourself back 3 times in 5 minutes. If you manage to do that 3 times in 5 minutes, that's pretty amazing, because you've had a lifetime of letting your thoughts dictate everything. So the minute you start being able to take control, even if it's 3 times in 5 minutes, you're light years ahead from where you were. And that then gives you that, once you start to take control over your thoughts, then from that you can start to take control over your emotions. And then from that you start to reduce the effect your emotions have on your body. So, going back to that awareness talk, this is a really powerful way to develop that awareness and to work with that awareness once you've started to develop it. So getting still, getting quiet is a really, really powerful way to connect to yourself. It's also really good. And I mean, it's not technically the purpose of doing it in yoga, but when you get still and quiet in this sort of situation, your problem solving ability increases, because you're giving your brain space to kind of think about things in a different way. You may find that, you know, you might have insights into things that you've been struggling with. You know, if you've got a trying to solve a problem, say you're running a business and you're trying to work out something about how you're going to run your business, and you're trying to push and push and push and push with that and trying to get there, and you're not getting there, and then you go off and you just have 10 minutes quiet sitting. It clears out your brain, gives you all that stress that is going on in your head a break, and it enables your brain to start making different connections. And it's like, you know, if you're pond dipping, this is a crazy analogy, but if you're pond dipping, when you take kids pond dipping, or if you do it yourself, if you're a scientist, you stir up the water, and that stirring brings out all the creatures to the surface, because they're like, well, what's going on? And then when the water settles, you can see everything. So we're stirring up we stir up the brain, but then we've got to let the water settle before we can actually see what's there. So you may find, if you do 5 or 10 minutes of just sitting quietly, you may find that an answer you've been battling with, you've been struggling to get, might just come to you. It happens quite a lot. It's called, and that is part of that self-awareness, that self-discovery, because you're connecting to your intuition. You're giving your intuition a chance to talk to you, and you're actually providing the space to listen. I'm sure that you will have had plenty of times when you thought, oh, I had a gut feeling about that, but I just ignored it. You know, but when you get still and quiet, your intuition makes itself pretty clear a lot of the time, and it's harder to ignore then when it's really shouting at you and doing a big dance in front of you. So that's one way that you can really connect to yourself, through the breath, through stillness. It's a really powerful thing, and it has so many other benefits as well. I mean, in terms of helping you to sleep, helping you to just relax, to, you know, reduce stress in your life. If you start your day with a bit of quiet sitting, or if you end your day like that, or do both. Or, you know, if you when you go into your office, if you sit down at your desk and then just close your eyes before you switch your computer on, just close your eyes and take a few breaths. It helps to kind of get you in a more focused frame of mind. So there's countless benefits to just this practice. You could do it for 5 minutes, you could do it for an hour, whatever works best for you. I did 40 minutes on my birthday as a treat to myself, and that's the longest I've ever done it, outside of my teacher training. That's the longest I've done it through choice, 40 minutes. When I first started, I couldn't even last 4 minutes. So I think 40 minutes of, and that wasn't 40 minutes of, you know, completely being able to control my thoughts and completely stopping the thoughts when they were arising. There were a few rabbit holes of thoughts that I went down, but then I would pull myself out of it and come back to my breath. And 40 minutes went by. It was lovely, relaxing. I felt great afterwards. So you will get better the more you practice that. So that's one really helpful tip that I would strongly recommend to you. Now, the other thing, and there are lots and lots and lots of different ways that you can explore self-study. Things like learning about the human mind, learn about some psychology and neuroscience. It's fascinating stuff. When I was writing my last book, on my first book, I started off the idea that I had was quite complex in terms of bringing science and yoga together. Now, I'm not a scientist at all, but I'm fascinated by what people have learned about humans in general, but in particular about how our brains work, at a chemical and physical level and the psychological level as well. We are incredible, amazing creatures. We're all mad. We all have our, and I mean mad in that kind, not in a nasty mental health way, but we're all we all have our eccentricities, shall we say then, and we all have our patterns, and we all have these things that are going on inside our minds, and it's absolutely fascinating stuff. And when you start to look at that, look at the science of how we operate, it tells you so much about yourself. You can learn so much about yourself from looking at the science at whatever level you can kind of cope with it intellectually. I know my level where science is concerned, and I struggle if I go outside of that level. But yeah, looking at that, and things like looking at the society that we live in can give you an idea about yourself as well. You know, we are creatures of our time. We would be completely different if we lived 50 years ago. I as Esther Nagel would be a very different kind of person had she been born in the 1940s. And 20-year-old Esther wished that she had been, because then it would have meant she could have got to see the Beatles. But, you know, how old would I be now? I'd be like 80 or something now. So I don't mind. I'm 45 now, and that's cool. But, you know, we are the products of our time. So to understand who we are, it helps to understand the world we're growing up in. And all of these things that come and shape us, we are being shaped by everything around us. So the more you can understand about the world that you're living in, the local community, the wider community, the political structure, all of that helps to shape who you are. I mean, you could spend your entire life on self-study, looking at the world that you've grown up in and all of this stuff. And it is so interesting. But, you know, you're probably not going to do all of that. One really, really powerful way to really find out what goes on inside here is to get one of these and a pen, and I've lost my pen. I'll put it down over here. So you get one of these and one of these, and you just write. And you sit down and you just write and write and write and write and write and write and write. You see, I've got pages of mostly nonsense, mostly unintelligible, illegible, stream of consciousness. Actually, this isn't my journaling book. This is my random notes book. But, you know, you just sit down and write. Free writing, or there's the morning pages, the Artist Way course from Julia Cameron, where she advises you write 3 A4 sheets of paper every day. That really helps you to kind of get out what's inside your head. Journaling and writing, free writing, is a really, really powerful way of finding out what's in your head. When I did my yoga teacher training course, we were supposed to keep these diaries, and I'm catastrophically bad at keeping a diary. Anything that feels like somebody's telling me to do something every day, I might do it for 2 days, and then I'm like, no, not doing it today. No, you can't make me. No, you can't make me. It's really annoying. It's really annoying because I can't make myself do things as well most of the time. But I didn't keep a diary. And this diary was supposed to be our daily reflections after the yoga practices and what we were learning about the yoga philosophy and how our lives were changing. But what I was doing was writing essays. Now, these essays would turn out to be, you know, some people were doing like a page. I was spitting 4 or 5 pages, sometimes more, sometimes less. I was basically doing my reflections, my journaling through my essays, because I had clear structured questions, and, you know, if I wanted to pass the course, I had to do these essays. So I could do that. And I was writing stuff through this course, and there was at least 2 occasions that I remember. I'd be sitting at my desk, typing away, and then I would sit back in my chair, and then I'd read what I'd just written. I had no idea what was coming out of me until I'd written it, and until I read back over what I was writing. And I learned so much about myself through doing those essays. I would start the essay just answering the question at a very superficial level. And then as I was answering it, everything that might my subconscious brain had actually done with that information was coming out. So through those exercises, I worked out that there was probably a very close connection between the bulimia that I'd suffered with when I was about 18, 19, and the alcohol addiction that I developed when I was 20. That was one of the most sort of mind-blowing discoveries that I made. I'd never given that a second thought before, and I learned lots. I started to be able to see. I'd be writing about things that had happened when I was a kid, and I'd suddenly make a connection between that event, let's say, happened when I was 8, and something that I did when I was 36, for example. So writing this stuff and just sitting there and writing and letting the words flow was so amazingly, mind-bogglingly healing. And it allowed me to get to the depths of myself that I'd never really realized existed, never mind acknowledged. Stuff that I spent a lot of time and drank a lot of wine to try and bury started to come out of me. So there were some challenging things that I had to confront, that I'd write things down and then think, oh God, really? And it was amazingly cathartic and ultimately very, very healing process. The book that I wrote last year, that started off as largely the same thing. When I did the first sort of collection of words that I had, that I thought maybe a book, when I actually went back to it, I realized that if I published that, nobody would talk to me ever again. And it was all far too personal. And, I really didn't want to publish it because there was an awful lot of processing of emotions that had gone into it. But I needed to write all that in order to be able to then cut it all out and write the book that was actually aimed at actually somebody else reading it. So through the writing that I did, and I still do it, I think sometimes some of my blog posts, there have been some blog posts that I've written that have been published, and then 2 days later I've read them again and thought, oh, actually, no, that's coming off. Because I think sometimes there's a lot of healing has come for me through my blog. I find writing a very, very powerful tool for healing. And I know I'm not alone in that. It is a really, really powerful way to get out of us what we really think about things. Especially if you're if you let yourself just write without worrying about things like, is anybody going to see this, or is that really, once you start questioning yourself on any level, the kind of flow goes from it, and it becomes a little bit more like chopping through brambles to get to something instead of just flowing down a river to get to a destination. But it is, if you sit down and let yourself just write, then you will be astonished at what comes up. I have done, it's not yoga, but I have worked a little bit with this, and this is really funny because on the Facebook side this looks the right way around to me, and on the YouTube side it doesn't look the right way around to me, so I'd be interested to see how it comes out. But the artist way, this is a course, and I haven't done the course, but I've done the morning pages exercise a lot, which is basically you get up in the morning and you grab a notebook and you write 3 pages, and it's that stream of consciousness stuff. And the idea is that you do it in the morning before you've had a chance to, before life has happened, essentially, and before you've had a chance to start putting up your walls that we put up throughout the day without even realizing it. And if you do it as soon as you wake up, your brain is still quite relaxed, it's still quite sleepy, it's still quite, all the defenses, all of your mental defenses are down, and you're just going to pour stuff out onto the page. And it is a very powerful practice. And I do highly recommend that you spend some time just free writing, If you could do it every day, then it would be brilliant, and you would find some amazing, amazing self-discoveries that come out. So I did say in my email and in the details about today that we're going to do a kind of a workshop today. I've got some questions, and I've closed my book now, and I don't know where I put them, because I don't ever write in a notebook in anything like a sensible manner. I just go to the nearest available page, and then I start writing. Is never particularly helpful. I don't recommend it. Books are much better. Oh gosh, oh, for goodness sake. So I did come up with some questions, and I will find them. I will. So anyway, if you've got a notebook and a pen, the first question that I wanted you to write about was to think about, and I'm not going to give you very long in between these questions because I want you to just write. I don't want you to overthink these questions. And I don't want us to spend very long on them. So I just want us to write. So first of all, take a deep breath. So you're going to take a deep breath to just calm yourself down. Make sure that you're connected to your body. And the first question that I would like you to answer is to list as many things as you can. Aha. Right. The first question is actually, if you had 24 hours left to live, what would you do in those 24 hours? And I'm going to just give you a minute to write that down. I just want you to think about what would you do if you only had 24 hours left to live? What things would you like to do on your last day on Earth? It's not a morbid question. You'll actually find that it's quite a life-affirming question, hopefully. So what would you do? Who would you speak to? What would you, what would you spend your precious moments? What would you eat? What would you drink? What music would you listen to? Where would you like to be? Just those last few moments on Earth. If you knew that was it, how special would you make that last day? Let me just have a couple more. So I'm just going to grab a little drink, my herbal tea in my pint glass. Okay, so stop now. I do want, this is it's a short exercise just to get to the root of what it is that you really, really love to do. Because you might be doing things every day, thinking, one day I'll get to do this, or at the weekend I'll get to do this. But what do you really love to do, and are you doing it? And I'd invite you to look at that list. And if there are things on that list that you don't do enough of, if there are people on that list that you don't see enough of, if there is food on that list that you don't eat enough of, try and fit a bit more of that into your life, because those things are the things that you probably want to be doing a bit more. Make sure that you're living the life that you want to live, that you feel joy, that makes you feel joyful, and that really is what you want at a deep level. So the next question that I have for you is, what is there in your life that you wish you could let go of? Now, this might be a habit, it might be clothes, it might be objects, it might be a job, it might be relationships, it might be the hair, your hair color, it might be a bad tattoo, anything that you've got that you feel is holding you back in life that you really wish wasn't part of your life anymore. And don't worry about feeling guilty about this. If this is a particular person in your life, then just write their name down and then cross it out if you don't want the risk of seeing it. just be aware of these things. We need to know how we really feel about things. And because otherwise we spend our whole lives denying our truth. And when you deny your truth, it eats away at your soul, and ultimately it's probably going to erupt in either physical ill health for you, or some massive thing is going to blow up at some point in your life. So it's really important that you identify what are the things that you want to let go of, and can you do anything about that? Is there a way that you can let go of that? So, you know, if you've I spent years with asthma and a smoking habit. So, you know, I might want to give up smoking at some point. So I have, by the way, I have given up smoking. But, you know, I would have probably said, I want to let go of my asthma, but the quickest way to do that would be to give up smoking. So if you look at those things that you've written down there, is there something you can do maybe this weekend to take a step towards that? Or if it's, if it's a problematic relationship, is there something you can do to start to improve that relationship so it doesn't feel like it's weighing you down so much? Start to think about how you can improve things, because that's the point of self-study. It's not just to look at everything that you think is wrong in your life. It's to look at where you are in life right now and to be conscious of what you want your life to look like, to be conscious of how you want to feel, how you want to live, who you want to be. Look at where you are with love and compassion and no kind of shame or any kind of recrimination, because this is just where you are. You know, it's where you are right now. Where you're going to be tomorrow is down to a decision that you can make right now. We can't change the past. We can learn from the past, and we can forgive the past. We can start to make a change right now to lead to the future that you want. Okay, all starts right now. At any given moment, it all starts right now. So we look deeply into yourself and then see if where you are right now is actually where you want to be. And how can you move towards being where you want to be? So the next question is kind of the opposite to that first question. If absolutely anything was possible, anything at all was possible, what would you like to have or be or do? So there are no restrictions on your life at all. What would you like to have, be, or do? And if you write, say, for example, I mean, my tongue-in-cheek general response is, I would like to be Robert Downey Jr.'s wife. Okay, now I don't know if I actually want to be Robert Downey Jr.'s wife. He's very nice to look at, and he does yoga, and that's all I know about him, really. He's got lovely eyes. But if you identify a person, what is it about that person that you feel you would like? And if it's a thing, what is it about that thing that what do you think having that thing would make you feel? And if it's a particular way you want to be, how would you feel when you were that person? Connect to how these things make you feel, how these things would make you feel. And it might be the feeling that you want to connect to. So, for example, my thing about Robert Downey Jr., well, he's a beautiful man with beautiful eyes and a really lovely smile. So there's the very superficial interest. But then beyond that, I think that we have things in common. I mean, he lives in a completely different world and probably has a very different worldview than I do. But he's experienced addiction. He's experienced that rock bottom. He's experienced what it feels like to live in a pit of self-loathing, because he may have been rich and famous back in the 90s, but I don't think he was very happy. So, you know, he's experienced what it's like to be at your worst. And he's recovered now, and he enjoys yoga, and he seems like in his 40s he's kind of settled down now. I think he's married now. I think he's got children with his wife, and you know, I think he's settled down, and that kind of in some way parallels my own experience of life. So I think in that, there's that idea of the kind of kindred spirit who would be able to understand me, who would get me. And I think that is what I actually want. And so that's why in my moments of, if anything was possible, I'd like to marry Robert Downey Jr. I want to marry somebody that understands me, really. So, we can really look at what we want and look at why we want that and what is it that we're actually seeking. And it's a really interesting question to ask yourself is, how would that make me feel and why do I want to feel that way? So the next question that I've written down for you, I can read this. Oh yeah, right. So think about a relationship that you have in your life that really fills you with joy. And I want you to think about what you bring to that relationship and also what you get from the relationship. So if it fills you with joy, then you're probably putting something into it as well. So what are you giving? In what way are you giving of yourself? And what is the other person getting from it? And what are you getting from it that makes it that joyful for you? And just a few more seconds to write about that. Suddenly dawned on me, I probably should have shut up and given you a bit of space to write. Okay, so you can always pause the video or come back to it if you're watching live. Come back to this again at any time. And next question. I've got my phone here. I'm going to actually put a timer on this one because I want to make sure that you have the amount of time I want to give you, but that you don't have any more time. So I'm going to give you a timer and I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Because what I want you to do, so you've got 2 minutes. Oh, you can't see that on either screen. So in 2 minutes, I want you, in fact, yeah, 2 minutes. Okay, and I want you to keep writing for 2 minutes. I want you to list as many things as you can that you're proud of. And that's not, I'm proud of my son because he's doing this, or I'm proud of somebody else. You can talk about, I'm proud of what I did to help or support this person. So, I could write that about my son. My son is currently in Seattle in university studying physics. I'm very proud of him for that. But when I'm doing this exercise, I'm proud of the way I raised him so that he was able to go there. So it's not about other people, but you can talk about how you have impacted on those other people to enable them or to support them or to encourage them to do these amazing things that they're doing. So I'm going to start the timer now. So you've got 2 minutes. What have you done? As many things as you can that you're proud of. I feel like I should have countdown. So I hope you're still writing. I'm sure you've got plenty of things. You can go back to your childhood. You can think about work. You can think about your achievements in your personal life. You can think about things that you made. You might think about things that you've given up, things that you've achieved for yourself and for others. So I'm sure that there are a variety of different things that you could be listing right now. I would love if you could share some of them with me, because I'm sure that some of them would be amazing to learn about, and I would come away very inspired by you out there. So we got just under half a minute left. So keep scribbling. Ten seconds. And that's your time up. So I hope that you've really enjoyed that exercise. I didn't come up with that myself. I was at a networking event, a sort of personal development / networking event a couple of months ago, and that was one of the questions that we were asked. And I really enjoyed it, because everyone, when you get a group of people doing things like that, there tends to be a bit of like, oh, I can't write things like this down. But the more people were writing, the more you could kind of feel the energy in the room changing, because people were suddenly starting to straighten their backs and think, oh yeah, I'm awesome. So it is really good. And if you have got a list there, I would invite you to look back at that list from time to time and look at, when you were doing those things, when you were achieving those things, when you were doing all those amazing things that you feel really proud of, what were you doing? Who were you at the time? What strengths and skills were you utilizing in order to be and do all the things that you've got on that list? Because we tend not to be particularly good at finding our strengths and seeing our strengths objectively, being complimentary about ourselves. But when you look at how much you've actually achieved in your life, you can see that you do have these skills. You are capable of doing things. And it's really good. Keep that. And then when you're on if you ever have that, oh, I'm so terrible, I'm rubbish, and when you go into those moments of self-deprecation and feeling like you can't achieve anything, that you're not as what's the word? I don't know what the word is, but when you know what I mean, when you're feeling low about yourself, you look at that list and you think, I rock. And it's a good place to get to. It can help to really lift your spirits when you're feeling a bit down. So that's all my questions. I hope that you've enjoyed doing that exercise. There is absolute ton of stuff around self-study that you can look at. I'm just going to share a link. It's only going to be on the Facebook Live broadcast, I'm afraid, to anybody that's watching in YouTube land. But I've just put on the Facebook broadcast a link to a blog post that I've written on my website. And there are a couple of different posts on my site about self-study, Swadhyaya, and generally getting to know yourself. So I hope that you really enjoyed that. If you have any questions, if you have any feedback, if you want to talk about anything that might have come up for you during this workshop, then please do get in touch. You all have my email address. You can comment on the posts. You can private message me on Facebook. We have a ridiculous number of ways we can connect with each other. So please do get in touch. I would love to hear from you. And enjoy your weekend. And I will speak to you soon. I'll drop you an email very, very soon. So have a lovely evening. And I'll see you soon. Bye. Bye.